Now it's time to make the rods that go between our bell crank we made and the door to open and close the doors. Before that, I'm just using just these Pico track nails. If you can get a little pin too, that would work. These pretty much just look like regular pins, they're just small. And then you're going to need some scrap styrene. I've got these little pieces of white styrene. It's about 60 thousandths, just a couple little blocks. Normally on my cars I use a piece of black styrene that I cut from a car body, like an Athearn car body. Just cut a chunk of it out of it, and I just been cutting little chunks, little squares off of it like that. But I'll use white here so it's easier to see. And we're going to need to drill some small holes through these. Now I broke the drill bit I needed, which is a number 77, but I'm going to go up one size and make it work here. So what I do is I grab this piece of styrene and pliers and get a good grip on it here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drill a hole through this block, through the narrow side of it. And it's a little bit tricky. Usually it takes me a few holes to get a couple that work out, but what I'm looking for is 2 parallel holes all the way through that block. So let's see if I can get this in the camera and do it at the same time. So we got 2, I don't know if you can see those holes in there. There's 2 holes right next to each other, and I'll trim off this extra. I just leave it a little long because if I mess up one of those holes, I just keep drilling down until I get 2 that are good. So I've made 2 of these little blocks here. I'll trim this one end off a bit. Just like that. And we're going to need 4 of these nails or pins. And what I do with 2 of these pins is I just grab them. I have this flat bladed pliers that I actually sharpened one of the back sides of it for bending things in, and I leave just a little bit of the head sticking out. Let's see if I can show that, just like that. And I just bend that 90 degrees, and I do that to 2 of them. Just like that. A little bit of the head sticking out. Bend it at 90 degrees. Now those I stick down through the bell crank. I don't know if you can see that, but I've added just a little bit of some lead weights, scrap pieces. I just glued them down the inside of the car here just to give the car a little bit extra weight. And I also drilled and installed some of the screws here. They're the same screws I use in the truck. I just screwed them in here. On the parts list I called out some longer screws, but you don't really need them. I just had them so they went farther down into this car, but the short screws will work fine. Just one less thing to buy. So then we're going to get this rod installed in the car. Just let it hang. As you can see, it's just hanging in there. And now to get the one in the door, what I do is I close the door and have the crank at 90 degrees like it is, and I just draw a line on the bottom of the door. I don't know if you can see that because of the weathering, but I just drew a pencil line right where that I drew the pencil line where the bottom of the interior floor is, and so I know where it is, and I drew a line that's vertical. And then I'm going to take a Dremel tool with a little round cutting wheel in it, and I'm just going to cut a small little depression in the side of that car between that line and the bottom of the door. Try to stay close to the bottom of the door as possible so you don't go through and see it on the other side. We're just making a slight depression in the, mine's styrene, you might have wood there, just enough for clearance on the head of the pin that's going to go in the door here. I just made a slight depression in the door. Then we're going to take some of our scrap styrene that we've weathered up. This was just a strip I had for making things on the car body, and just cut a short piece of it off. I'll make it about 3/8 of an inch long. Looks good. Just like that. Now we're going to drill a little bit bigger hole in this one here. Big enough so there's some clearance in the around the pin, because we're going to slide a pin through here. So I'm just going up several sizes here, but making it small enough so that my head of my pin doesn't pull out. Drill it right in the center, just like that. Then we're going to take another pin, and we're going to take, if you've got weather on the back side of this, you just need to get it off here because this needs to be clean on the back side. So I'm going to scrape off this paint. And then on each side of this hole here, scrape off a little bit of the paint too, so we got bare plastic. We need a good bond on this. Alright, so now take your piece of styrene with the little hole in it, slip the pin through it, like that, so you've got that thing happening. And then we're going to take and we're going to put some glue on the back side of this. Again, my trusty gel glue. Make sure you get some good enough glue on there. We don't want to glue the head of the pin to this plate. And now center that right over that depression we just made. Just make sure that this piece of styrene doesn't go beyond that other little line we made here. We don't want it to be touching this floor and making the door not close all the way. So I'm going to do the other side real quick while that dries, and we'll come back and I'll show you how to connect them up.